We're going to talk about four alien stories. Now, where we're at in this third Aliens omnibus, there's a ton of very short comics. So, and I mean, like, there's probably at least 8 stories that are like Dark Horse Presents kind of deals, and then we have like 2 issue minis and one shots. There's a ton of them. So when something's this short, I'm going to have to kind of compile it, and I'm going to try to do a max of 4 of these at a time. So bear with me. We're going to start with a story called Incubation, which came out in Dark Horse Presents issues 101 and 102. And this is written by Ron Mars. And essentially, it's a man chronicling an alien ship that crash landed on a planet and how they had xenomorphs on there, whether or not they knew about it to begin with, what happened. And then it's like his last um, little journal entry, essentially. It mostly focuses on these aliens rather than on people. It's fine. It's Ron Mars, so it should be fine. Not a lot to it, I must say. Some decent art, but yeah, there's not a lot. I give it a 3 out of 5. So next, we move on to a one shot, which is Aliens Mondo Heat by Henry Gilroy. And this is a sequel to Mondo Pest. Mondo the Mondo character is sent to rescue this scientist's daughter and her friend who have gone missing. And there is a twist to it, but basically it's a humor comic, and a good one at that. We get some great Mondo 90s action and comedy. It's really fun. He makes like a cannon, this ridiculous 90s looking cannon, and the battery backups are on the daughter and her friend, and so he's dragging them along. Then the girls are dragging him along. It's just goofy, and it's fun. Like, it's not like cringe. It's just 90s cheese, and it's nice because a lot of these aliens comics are misery simulators, so it's nice to have a fun little action adventure comedy. Honestly, I give this a 4 out of 5. It's worth your time to check out. I thought Mondo Pest was a little better, but Mondo Heat is very fun. And sadly, I think this is the last we see of Mondo stories, and it's a real shame. Next, we're moving on to a short story by Mark Vierden, of all people, and it is called Lucky, and this was collected in A Decade of Dark Horse number 3. And this is about a salvager who works for a company. He's very disenfranchised, and he's a bit of an asshole, and how he's been ganking the system and making a bunch of money, and by avoiding certain quarantine protocols, and he unwittingly unleashes xenomorphs off of this ship onto his own ship, and how he covers it up. Now, this comic felt very familiar, and I'm like, well, this is weird. It feels like I've read this story before. And a lot of alien stories, because there's so many of them, and so many of them were shat out in the 90s, so certain things kind of repeat themselves, as I've been talking about since the second one of these omnibuses. But this was a little too uncanny valley of, I've read this before. I really have. Like, I've read this story verbatim. And unlike with, like, the bigger alien stories where they were collected several times, like, there's several different trades, especially the 90s ones, where they were kind of readily available. This wouldn't have been. It probably was in the 5 or 6 Dark Horse omnibuses they did back in the day. but I never read through all of those. I paged through them, sure, but I got those, and then my house burned down, so I never got to review all those. Well, it's in this. The Aliens original comic series 30th anniversary hardcover that came out back in the 2010s. Anyway, and that's in here along with, like, I reviewed that story, and it was just like a blip thing when I reviewed this back, and when this came out, I reviewed it. So I'm going to give a better review now. It's not good. It's one of Mark Fearden's worst comics I've ever read. The guy is unlikable, but he has the cardinal sin of not only being unlikable, but uninteresting. You can have unlikable characters in your books. Like, I don't know if I've made this clear before. I probably have. Like, in the thousands of times I've talked about these stupid Titan books, Aliens novels. Well, they're not even aliens. They're typically called alien novels. You can have unlikable characters in your books. They can be selfish. They can be this. They can be that. But you have to make them interesting. This guy is unlikable and uninteresting. The story is very, we need something. You wrote Aliens at one time. Here you go. Write something else. The difference between these two is this one's all in black and white. They decolorized issues. Whereas this has the colorized version, which was probably the version that came out in a decade of Dark Horse, I would assume. But I don't know. I didn't look into this before doing this review because Lucky is a bad story. It's not the worst Alien story I've read. It's not even the worst one I've read in here. But it's pretty bad. I give it a 2.1 out of 5. It's not, just skip it. It's not worth your time to check out. Anyway, we're going to tackle one more here, which is a one-shot comic by Thierry Gagnon and Richard Forgus. Forgus? I don't know. It's called Aliens Lovesick, and it is just awful. It's about this kid that goes... he's sent with his... I guess they're, like, cousins or second cousins. She's like a grown woman, and he's like a 9 or 10-year-old. He's not quite a teen. He may be tween age. I don't know. It's hard to tell. The art's awful. And they're with this mad scientist, and essentially the mad scientist lures the kid into a trap, and his cousin or whatever who's dressed like Ripley is without the pants at the end of Alien for member-berry purposes and fan service. Because the scientist is an incel and can't have her, so he's gonna try to kill her and her cousin. And he leaves the little boy cousin on an island. But it's a been there, done that story, for one thing. It's a ripoff of Alien and Aliens. Okay. It's a whole nother thing that the little boy cousin just has this big crush on his older woman sister cousin. And when I say older woman, she's probably in her 20s. It's weird. It's really weird and gross. And I don't like it. The kid's a brat. The woman's a nothing burger, tough lady, whatever. Dare I say the girl boss archetype? I mean, I don't know. The story's so short that, like, I don't know if I can throw the archetype of the girl boss on this character because it's so short that there's no way of, like, judging that. She's good with weapons. She's like a former colonial marine or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The scientist has been there, done that. Crazy scientist number 137. Like, we've had so many of these mad scientists obsessed with xenomorphs characters. This one just happens to be more incel-y than they usually are. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. This is one of the worst Aliens comics I've read in a hot minute. And that's saying something, because most of that second omnibus was unreadable. But this takes the cake in my irritation senses are tingling kind of deal. It gets a 0.3 out of 5. Avoid this like the plague or HPV. I don't know. It's awful. It's freaking terrible. I don't recommend it. So, I'm going to call it there. There are more short stories to come, but you're going to have to wait a few weeks. So, anyway, have a nice day.